Alright, hello once again. This is Jeff Scott of Rankin Technical College. And as part of the Rankin Technical College AWD, or Application and Website Development Program, I have been creating a website from scratch using the principles that are in the textbooks that we're using for the AWD1000 Web Development Technologies class. I've been going through it very slowly. I've created 8 or 9 presentations so far. This is my homepage. There actually is a place called Jacked and Jilled. This is not associated with them at all. Alright, but this is the homepage. Stock photos that I found online. Alright, so you can see I've got a header section, kind of a main section that's all in here, and a footer section. Now, when I was working on this last time, I had problems with the About page. I have since fixed them. Alright, the page isn't much to look at. There's a picture there, but the rest is all textual in nature, as you can see. So I'm going to head back to here, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to hopefully bring a few things together, alright, that if there have been any holes or anything in what I've worked on before, for lack of better words. Now, I did talk about this stuff earlier. You should now understand that HTML is a tag-based language. Here's the beginning of our HTML document, and here is the end of our HTML document. HTML documents basically have 2 sections. A head section, which has got all the information that does not physically appear on the web page, and a body section, which does have the actual information that appears on the actual web page. Alright, so we talked about doc type, and I don't really want to go over that anymore, other than to say this is the document type you use for an HTML5 document. Alright, HTML, lang equals en, meaning we're using English. The direction is we're reading left to right. This really isn't necessary. This right here, if I remove both of these, if I were to get rid of both of those there in blue, the program would still work just fine. But probably, it would not validate correctly, because it does need to know lang equals English. Alright, so coming into here, alright, we're using the Unicode character set, and that's what UTF-8 basically means. We're trying to set up the page to be responsive from the get-go. So we've added this. We're trying to make sure that if users are reading this page using Internet Explorer, we want to render it as though they're using Edge, even if they're not. Now it says here more meta tags will be added later. Let's take a quick look at that right now. So I'm going to come back over here, and I'm going to type in meta tags. Alright, and it says they're snippets of text that describe a page's content. They don't appear on the page itself because they're in the head section, but only in the page's code. Alright, let's see. There's W3 Schools, which is what I like to use. Alright, and what I want to do is I'm going to grab these 3 meta tags that are right here. Alright, and if you want more, you can go out to here. In fact, let's do this. Alright, because what I had put in here was more meta tags will be added, and that should have said later, of course. But I'm going to come in here and I'm going to do this. Taken from the following URL. Alright, so I'm going to come in here and I'm going to add those meta tags right now. Meta tags, many of these meta tags, which I'm adding right here, are used for what's referred to as search engine optimization. The idea is, if I were to literally, I'm not going to take this site live, at least not right now, but if I were to, and if somebody were to go into Google and type in gym, I would ideally like mine to appear on the first page. All right, and that's what search engine optimization can do. Now, that said, many people will tell you that what has happened over time is these tags aren't as important as they used to be. Okay, so I'm going to say classroom website for mythical Jim, not for the real Jack and Jill Jim. Okay, so that's my description of the website. It's just, that's what it is. All right, so keywords, Jim, gym, workout, weights. That'll be fine. And for the author, I'll just put myself in there. All right. Again, none of those are technically necessary, but I've got here more meta tags. Instead of now, will be added later. How about are shown below? So I have put all my meta tags together. Okay. All right. Then the title tag. As mentioned, the title tag is used for three basic purposes. It gives you the tab that you see at the top. So if we go back and we look, there it is, Jack and Jill home. And you can see it right there. All right. I added the Normalize CSS file here. Okay, and that was added because it's shown in our textbook. And what it does, for lack of better words, is it tries to set us on an even playing field. In other words, it's going to turn off the default settings for most every browser. Then this is our own CSS file. We're going to look at that in just a minute. I'm not going to bring up the Normalize. You must put the Normalize before you put your own CSS in. Then, and again, this wasn't really necessary, but I put in this thing that's typically called an HTML shiv. All right, it's, as it says, it's a fix for older IE browsers. What it says is basically don't break the website if you can't understand some of the tags. And I use something that's called a CDN, or Content Delivery Network, which meant this file literally exists out on the internet. So in order for me to be able to use this file in my program, I will need an internet connection. All right. Then we came down, ended our head, began our body section. This body section, just so you're aware of it, is broken up into three different sections. There's what I call left header, middle header, and right header. All right, so the left header has these two hyperlinks in it. You'll notice that since I'm already on this page, I just put a £sign in there, which means don't leave the page you're on. I'm also putting in here a class that says active. And what that active does is it makes this red. Notice if I go to the About page, that's now red. And I have it over the hover also. All right. Then the middle header has got our logo, which is clickable. And it's got our little tagline. All right. And I'm just going to even put that there. Tagline. Which is get jacked or jilled. All right. Then we've got our right header, which we have not built these yet. That'll be a while because that's going to require us to use at least some JavaScript and or jQuery. And jQuery is JavaScript. I know that. All right, so right now they're not doing anything. Then we get into our main section. Now, I played around with this a lot. All right, I had the main, and then notice I've got a div with an ID of main, and that goes down to here. What that's doing, this section right here, is doing two things. All right, if we go back and look here, it is adding this stuff. So it's adding our enroll today and our little form, and it's adding the picture. So let's put a comment in there that says that. The div main will both add some text. All right. The simple join form and a background image. And that background image is someone using our gym. All right. And again, this is how I'm setting it up. You may or may not, you may or may not agree with the way I'm doing this. And you know what? Honest to goodness, that's fine. I'm showing you a way of doing something. All right. So here's our text. Enroll today, 1 month's free. Here's the form. The form is very simple. It has two elements in it. An email element, which is of type email. All right. The ID is email and the name is email. That ID will be used with JavaScript code that we're going to write later. If we were to write server-side code, PHP, ASP.NET, Java server pages, etc., we could use that name property. And this just makes sure we've got something in there. All right, now we've got our submit button. All right, so that's the first part of our main page. So again, that is everything that you see here in the blue and the picture that you see here. So then we've got a second part, and that is everything that goes from here to there. Doesn't include the gray area down at the bottom. All right, so let's take a quick look at that. I called it testimonials, because it says what our clientele are saying. All right, we've got 3 clients. There's client 1. There's client 2. And there's client 3. Following that, we've got a very simple footer. I wanted to make sure, again, people know this is not affiliated with the real Jacked and Jilled gym. All right. It was created in 2019, which is the year we're in right now. JPS, which are my initials, Inc. And this was just a privacy policy. It's not a real policy either. It's just a link that we can go to. Okay? So again, File, Save All, right mouse click, Open with Live Server. That's how this page currently looks. All right? Are there things about it I don't like? Yeah. Are there things I could have done better? Yeah. But it works just fine for what we're doing. All right? So that's the first page. Now let's go to the second page. In fact, before we even do that, let's go to the CSS for this page. I'm already at 14 minutes. So I'm going to do the CSS for this page, and then I'm going to stop and then do the same thing I've been doing, but with the About page. All right? So what do we have here? Here's our global settings. We want our global background color. So this HTML, this right here is this that you see here. All the stuff that appears that is outside of the actual page itself. All right, so that's what that is. This is everything we want the global page settings. We want the background color to be this kind of grayish silver. We want this to be centered. We want the maximum width to be 960 rem. All right. Hopefully what that's going to do is it's going to make sure that when we start to take this and make this a little bit, all right, doesn't look very good at all, but we're going to eventually make this responsive. All right, okay. A rem is basically equal to whatever the default size is. So the default size in here is 16 pixels. So the maximum width will be 960 pixels. I could have used that too, but a rem is a relative unit of measure where pixels are absolute. We want to use relative whenever possible. The font families we're going to use, Arial if you have it. If you don't, try Helvetica. If you don't have that, use sans serif. Box size, border box. All right, what that is saying basically is what I want you to do is if you add extra margin and padding, don't add that on to our totals. And again, I'm just going to type in this, W3 schools box sizing border box. All right, and if you want more, you can go out there and you can take a look. But it's pretty much what I just told you. All right, so I am going to put a comment in here because that's the one that most people probably would get confused over. All right, this utility class will handle any time I've got floating left or right, and I want to clear out the floats. That's what this does. All right, here's my main header section. All right, notice I've got a height for all my headers. Padding, this says the equivalent of 10 pixels top, 0 right, 8 pixels bottom, 0 left. This says for all of the anchor tags I have here, turn off the underlining and make them all a midnight or darker blue. This says anytime I'm either hovering over a hyperlink or if it's the active hyperlink, make it red. You've already seen that. This says that any list item that's in here, display it inline, give it 10 pixels of padding, and give it a font size of 24 pixels. So that right there, that is handling all of the stuff that you see in here and in here. This, with the first child, this border right, what that's saying is add this, that's the first child, and add this, that's the first child. All right. Then we've got our left-hand side. Notice the width is set, and we told it to float left. We've got our center side. We probably don't even, I'm not sure if we even need that width there, but that it works fine. Then we've got the unordered list that's in here. We gave it some left padding. It's about 30 pixels. And we gave it some top padding, which was more than 30 pixels, as you can see. Here's our middle header. All right. You can see what we've set there accordingly. We're going to do this as a class as well. Here's that little bit of paragraph text that's in there. Notice I gave it a negative margin top because it got pushed down by default, so I pushed it back up again. Here's our right header. Very similar to the left, but instead of floating left, it's floating right. And the UL, which again is very similar to what we've done before. All right. Rid of that. I was doing some playing around with this stuff. All right. In our main div, that's the background image. So that's the woman that you saw. That stuff is set up for this. That's all that is this stuff right here. All right, here's the paragraph text that's inside of the main area. Here's for my join form, or my join area. This is setting up everything. Here's the paragraphs that are in there. Here's the form itself. And as you can see, basically what's being done in there is formatting that's set up to put it where I want to put it on the page. Here's the email part of that. There's the submit button. All right, then we get down to the testimonials area where it says what our clientele are saying. That's this. The paragraphs for each person, that's this. Each person was put inside of a div that's called box. There's 3 people, there's 3 boxes. The boxes are set up like this. The images that go inside of the boxes are set up like this. The paragraphs and the H1s are set up like this. The H2s are set up like this. All right? And then we jump down to the About page. But before I do that and before I go over to this page, I'm going to stop this tape and then I'm going to start again in just a couple minutes.